It's time!
What's kicking, everybody? We are back for another episode of Pickin Fights. I'm Keith, joined as always by my amigo Tom. Tom, how are you today, bro?
I'm doing well, Keith. How are you doing today, buddy?
Oh, I'm great. Still riding high off of last night. I had you beat out by a couple picks, but overall, you can't be upset with the way it went, and especially those fights. Those were just incredible. That was a great card. A couple of my favorite fights of all time are on there, especially that main event. So I absolutely love that. Before we dive into this video, I just want to remind everybody, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video, leave us a comment down below. You have no idea how much that really helps us out, and we really appreciate your support. So we've got a special guest with us today. His name is Patrick. You can find him over on Twitter at, I believe it's, Combat Addict?
Yeah, Combat Addict 1 on Twitter. The YouTube is Addicted to Combat. So, yeah, good to be here, guys. Nice to finally talk to you guys. And, yeah, I've been following your YouTube for a while. So, sharp bettors. Always fun to talk picks with new YouTube. Night of a fun night of fights coming up on Saturday. It's hard to beat this past pay-per-view card, but next week will be pretty good. I think we got 14 fights in the slate, right?
As of now. So
yeah. Like supposed to be 6 on the main card, I think. Yeah. I mean, we could even even if some fall off, this will be good. And we finally get to see that Cerrone Joe Louzan fight that's eluded us a whole month now, I think. So fun to see those guys have their fight as well.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good one. I'm excited to break this one down and, talk to you about it as well as Tom. So we'll kick it off as we always do with our prelim locks. So I'll start off. I just have one, and I'm going with Cody Stamann over Eddie Wineland. When you look at the odds in this one, it's almost a little obvious. I feel bad about giving this as my prelim lock, but it is what it is. Cody Stamann is minus 450 as opposed to Eddie Wineland coming in at plus 350. Cody Stamann's on, a 3-fight losing streak right now. But if you look at the competition he lost to, Said Nurmagomedov, Merab Davishvili, and Jimmy Rivera, who is no longer in the UFC, but still really solid competition across the board for him. All, pretty bad finishes that he lost by, but really great competition. And then you look at Eddie Wineland, and Eddie Wineland is just – it's a nice drop down in competition for Cody Stamann. I think, Cody Stamann's style really holds up against Eddie Wineland. Eddie Wineland likes to, kind of stand at range and just try and throw kicks a lot of the time. And Cody Stamann, he knows how to bring you down, stay on top of you, and ground and pound you out. So what do you think of that pick, Tom?
Yeah, I like that pick. I think that Cody Stamann he's in his youth heading towards his prime, and you have the opposite from Eddie Wineland. And, after careers of damage, it accumulates. It's not like if you take 6 months off that, automatically you're going to be right back. A lot of the times you can, but as you age, that damage accumulates. And I think, Cody Stamann is going to come in here and, I think he's going to show why he's a rising prospect. I think at this point in his career, he's got a little bit more pushing him forward, from a motivational perspective. So, I could see why it is such a large line. I wouldn't make it as large myself, but, I think Cody Stamann, he's not something that you were going to look at as far as a straight bet pick or a money line pick this week, unless you're adding it to a parlay. What do you think, Patrick?
Yeah, I agree. The line you're saying it's minus 450 at this point in the week already on Sunday for Cody Stamann. That's probably going to skyrocket towards like the minus 500 at least. You're talking, a guy in a 3-loss streak, but all of his losses, Cody Stamann, have aged pretty well from the beginning in the UFC. Aljamain Sterling, at the time he lost to him, he wasn't like the title challenger or champion that he is now. So that aged pretty well. Song Yadong, that was a draw, but it was a fight that Song Yadong was en route to win if it wasn't for a point loss. Pretty good prospect as well. Jimmy Rivera, Merab Davishvili, and now Said. It's just a murderer's row of people that he's been faced against. And he's always going to struggle with his size. He's got a 64-inch reach, those short little T-Rex arms, but he's a very powerful, collegiate wrestler in his background, very heavy hands. And Eddie Wineland is a guy who's always struggled his entire career, back even before he was in the UFC, with anybody with a strong grappling style. He would usually get away with it with his, powerful and speedy, strikes and all that. But, that's what it's going to fade with his age. He's 37 years old at bantamweight, that speed and that the reflexes really go first. So now he's actually starting to not wear damage as well, starting to get knocked out. So his durability is now in question. You're talking about a guy who challenged Renan Barão for the championship 10 years ago now? I think it was 2013. So he's lost 4 of his last 5. So I think the loss streak is kind of even between these guys. I'll take the more youthful Cody Stamann that still has some gas left in the tank.
Yeah, he's a big ball of muscle. So I look forward to seeing what the line for him to win by decision is going to be, because that's what I really think, this victory is going to come up with.
Probably.
Yeah, like we mentioned, though, or, like you said, Eddie Wineland, that chin is not taking damage as well these days. So, it is a tough one to pick, too, because you could see Cody Stamann get the finish there. But
you could. Cody Stamann closes distance pretty well. Eddie Wineland, he might be able to and sometimes when you see these guys in a big loss streak like this, especially Cody Stamann now losing in round 1, he might take it a little bit slower. He might extend this fight out, try to just secure a win so he can stay in the organization. It's a very important fight for him, even more than Eddie Wineland is. But the decision I like, because he's 11-3 in decisions is Cody Stamann, I believe. And I think Eddie Wineland at this point in his career is like a negative decision, win-loss. So I like that spot.
Yeah. All right. So, Tom, what do you got for prelim locks?
As far as prelim locks go, I am going with Jasmine, Jasudavicius. I think I got that. Yeah, Jasmine Jasudavicius versus
Jasudavicius, or just Jasudavicius sounds so much better for MMA fighter, right?
Tough.
I mean, that's why I'm going to roll with it. When two options, go with the option that sounds better. Well, if I can even get it out at this point. Listen, I'm going with Jasmine, and the reason is because you look at Natalie Silva and you look at some of her past appearances. This is her first fight in the UFC. Her most recent fight before that is 2.5 years ago in Jungle Fight. Now, she has a decent amount of submissions on her record, but when you go and you look at the record of those people that she submit, 2-2, 1-1, 1-0, 3-0. 10-5. So the level of competition that she's faced thus up to this point in her career is questionable at best. And then when you take into account that Jasmine has fought, not a ton of phenomenal competition, but she's got people like Kay Hansen and people who like with Juliana Posteri, who are a little bit more proven that that fighting in the UFC and fighting on Dana White's Contender Series, I think is always going to pack a little bit more of an impactful punch when looking at the difficulty of schedule, at least. Now, obviously, Natalie Silva with the ability, or in her last 2 fights, with the ability to get the submission, means she has good ground game, at least adept at the amateur or just above amateur low pro level. But I think Jasmine Jasudavicius, I think she's just on a different tier. Styles make fights. I think in this one that Jasmine is just proven and better, more well-rounded in pretty much every area that the fight is going to go to. I don't think that she has finishing ability, and we haven't seen Natalia really show any signs of her like having like a chin that's going to potentially crack like in the very near future. She's 25. She's already got 5, 6, 18 fights under her belt. So very interesting young prospect coming up. But I think Jasmine Jasudavicius is going to get the decision win here. What do you think, Keith?
I love the pick. Great breakdown. I'll probably end up tailing you with that on Saturday. I like it a lot. Patrick, what do you got?
Yeah, I like this one a lot too. And this would have been a prelim lock for me if it wasn't just for the age. Sometimes you'll see these fighters that are like in their early 20s, like Natalia Silva, and she, disappears for 2 years, like you said, hasn't been, in the ring for like 2 years, but she'll come back. She's now, instead of 23, 25 years old. Maybe a miracle has happened. She looks different. I don't think so, because I watched a lot of the regional scene tape of her, and she actually fought Marina Rodrigues at one point too. And that went about as poorly for her as you would expect it would. She got beat up. Her striking defense is very, very poor. And, she does have some submissions on her lead you to believe that's her best path to victory. But she'll try to initiate the clinch against the cage, initiate the grappling. She'll end up on her back more often than not. So, Jasmine is not going to have – Jasmine actually has pretty good takedown offense as it is for somebody at her level in this division. She'll have a much easier taking down Natalia Silva, who might just allow her to, get on top. So I could even see, I'd say in most worlds, you're correct. I think that she does get a decision to win here. Obviously, women's 125, but Natalia Silva fought a lot of her career at 115. She's very undersized. I'm not sure why she's up at 125. So I could see a world where if the line was juicy enough for Jasmine inside the distance, I could see her like getting a crucifix, pounding the face in of Natalia Silva and sending her packing.
Solid. Do you have any more for us, Tom? I can't remember what you said before.
I don't have any more, but I think Patrick, you had a prelim lock for us.
Awesome.
Yeah, mine was like I said, I liked the Jasmine Jasuda Vicious one for the other women's fight. I think there are two mismatches as far as women's MMA goes. Again, young enough where they might make improvements. What I do like at 26 years old, beat Danny, who is now a 35-year-old featherweight and really looks like he's declining in just his career in general. He's having a lot of trouble. Ricardo Ramos is a guy kind of like we kind of started off with Cody Stamann, is where he has some losses mixed in his career. Not a great record in the UFC so far, but it's against really top-level guys, Lerone Murphy, Tagugov, Said Nurmagomedov. So these are some forgivable losses. I think Ricardo Ramos just is a much bigger guy, more physically gifted, faster, young, make more improvements. He's got, I think, the advantage on the feet as well as on the ground, too. So Danny Chavez has the forward pressure, some good striking output, but he's very easily counterable. And I think Ricardo Ramos, just the diversity of strikes he has, will just counter Danny Chavez all day and at least get a decision victory here, if not ending this inside the distance. Chavez does have that toughness, though, so this might end up being just a dominant decision.
Yeah. I think you're right, man. You're doing a great job so far, Patrick. It's really it's an absolute pleasure to have you on here, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you. You guys elevated me to a different standard this week. Like I said, I'm usually lazy. Don't get my tape study finished until like Monday or so. But I had to start doing this in the middle of the week to get ready for you guys. So
yeah, well, I'll be tailing you with that Ricardo Ramos pick. Yeah. I really like it. So
again, it represents more of a step down in competition. A guy who's probably the finished product at 35 years old in Chavez. I just don't think there's a whole lot to worry about. The forward pressure is one thing. If Ricardo Ramos has a really terrible night and Danny Chavez somehow reinvents himself at 35, it might go south, but I just think that's very unlikely.
Yeah. Well, all right. So with all that being said, all of our prelim locks are in. Let's move on up to the main card now. And we'll kick it off with the first of many main card fights. I mean, this is a big one. I can't see this card not moving around quite a bit. We have Kyle Daukaus and Roman Dolidze over there opening the prelims.
This is opening the main card, huh?
Yeah.
Currently? Wow.
Yeah, so Julian Marquez versus Gergory Rodrigues, which I have a feeling this one's going to end up getting bumped down to the prelims, swapped out for something else. But because that's where it is now, we're going to talk about it. So I like Julian Marquez here, actually. And all of his wins have come by way of finish. He's got really heavy hands. He's got really good combinations. His last 3 wins have actually come by way of submission. So he's turning into a really well-rounded fighter. He's definitely got a little bit more of a challenge this week with Gergory Rodrigues, but he's fought and won against some solid, decent guys. And Rodrigues has as well, Jun Young Park, guys like that. But the jiu-jitsu that Marquez has been using in his past couple of fights is one of the things that's really been standing out to me. It really shows his intelligence level, like when he was fighting Sam Alvey, and say what you want about Sam Alvey, but that guy's a tough dude. And, Marquez just pounding down on his face, raining hammer fists on top. And, and this was after he backed Alvey up against the cage, just going body, head, heavy shots. And, he dropped him and realized that Alvey wasn't going to, basically give in to the hammer fist. He wasn't going to go to sleep. So, he choked him out. And, so I like the fight IQ that Marquez brings to the table. I like his ability to stand and bang. And then, when he sees the opportunity lately, he's really just been trying to go in there and wrap things up, on the ground. And he's got a pretty solid chin as well. I don't believe he's ever been put to sleep with anybody's hands. So at plus 165 in a fight that I really think is going to be a stand-up war, at least for the first 2 rounds. If it makes it that far, it's going to be a stand-up war for a good chunk of it, though. I like Marquez to get it done here. The biggest thing that he's got going against him is he's been on a layoff for over a year, but Rodrigues is coming back after 3 months in a scrap where he took a good chunk of damage and lost on the scorecards to Armen Petrosian. So I don't think it, is going to be that big of a deal that Marquez has been out for some time. And, I'm also a bit of a fan of Marquez. I believe it, he's got a podcast with Kendra Lust, so that's pretty cool. And he's the one that shouted out Miley Cyrus asking her for a date after he won too, right? So
that was epic.
Yeah, love Julian Marquez. Really hope he gets
best moment of his career by far, for sure.
Oh yeah, that definitely put him on the radar for a lot of people. So Patrick, what do you think of that pick?
I like Julian Marquez, but I also like Gergory Rodrigues. I'm leaning the Rodrigues side for sure in this one. What are the odds? Do you know currently? Is it like -200 Rodrigues? Was it +165 or so for Marquez? Is that what we're seeing currently?
Yep, correct.
You could have worse underdog picks, honestly. Marquez is a scrapper, and there's a lot of unknowns with him, right? He's had 4 UFC fights in about 4.5 years, so very inactive guy. He had that long layoff, like you mentioned. But he's beating guys now that are kind of fanned out. Maki Pitolo was that big win where he called out Miley Cyrus, I think. That was like a come-from-behind victory in round 3, where he had to choke him out. You mentioned the 100% finish rate as well. I mean, he also finished Sam Alvey, a guy who, he's got like one more fight in the UFC. He really shouldn't even be in there, though. He's lost 8 in a row or something phenomenal. So, both of his losses are by decision. If the fight gets drug out late, he's not always the best fight, So I like Rodrigues. Actually, even though he looks like a 50-year-old Brazilian Obama, he's actually only 30 years old. 6'3", 75-inch reach. So he's got the measurables on his side, the youth on his side, high-level Brazilian practitioner. And this is going to be a case with Rodrigues where he has the clear, easy path to victory. He's just getting the takedowns, and he's very good on top control. Big 185er, strong hips, really good balance. He'll let his opponents try to get back up only so he can grab their back, drag them back down. He can transition from mount to ground and pound, grab their back, get the choke. I really like Gergory Rodrigues, and he's a finisher too. 11 out of his 15 fights are by finish. But the issue here is, look, when they make this matchup between Julian Marquez, they're not saying we're going to make it between Julian Marquez and Rodrigues. This is a fair fight. We'll see who wins. He was supposed to fight Wellington Turman was Marquez. That's a far more even fight, right? They're trying, okay, one of you guys are both kind of like, first rounder bust guys. We'll see how it goes. Might be entertaining. Maybe Marquez will get the victory there. Wellington Turman pulls out 8 weeks ago, so it's not so short notice for Rodrigues. And now they're basically trying to build up Rodrigues here. I think they're going to give Rodrigues a spot to get back on the horse. He just lost a very controversial close split to Armen Petrosyan, and he's got a lot of potential in the future here. So I think they're really trying to set up Rodrigues to get a victory here. And I think with the takedown ability, he always gets either 2 or 3 in each of his fights. I think Marquez has been taken down like 14 times, never stuffed one. So I think this will be a clear Rodrigues path. But if this line keeps increasing, I wouldn't mind your pick on Marquez if the line gets out of control. Anything over like a +200 for Marquez, maybe it might be worth a stab inside the distance.
Yeah, I think, even at +165, still a good value dog. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, if I can stop playing musical chairs here with the boxes. Hey, listen, I like what you mentioned, a lot of the things, Patrick, and if you had picked me to go first, I would have said the same things. I'm not just piggybacking off of Patrick, but I went back that Armen Petrosyan fight. If you watch it, I mean, if you just clearly looked at the two fighters at the end of the fight, you would have assumed Gergory Rodrigues won that fight. Petrosyan was messed up, and then in a fight where ultimately or in a sport where ultimately damage matters, well, Petrosyan was wearing that damage more than RoboCop was. So, I mean, definitely controversial there. You look back at the wins that Julian Marquez has. Patrick said, a win over Sam Alvey at this point is basically not going to qualify you for anything. It's just going to disqualify you from being cut. At the end of the day, like if you lose to Sam Alvey, you should be cut. He's like not a championship gatekeeper. He is literally are you good enough to be here gatekeeper. I don't know.
He's been fighting for a long time, man. I mean, he's weathered. I love Sam Alvey. He's a great guy. We're always shitting on him as MMA, handicappers. We have to at some point, but he's been in there for a long time. He's actually from around this area. I saw his second professional fight ever, and I was in like 8th grade. It's been a long time. Yeah.
No disrespect, and it happens to everybody, right?
He does have one more fight in the UFC, right? Like he's got one more somehow, or
I haven't heard that he's been cut. And I think
he's got one more fight to go. I don't know who the hell they're going to pair up against. That's wild.
Just the reality of the situation is just that he's not of the caliber of the average UFC roster slot holder. So he's I mean, and it's a testament to his career that he's able to fight out and fight to the end in the UFC. It's a testament to what he's done and the respect they have and the draw that he brings, right? It is prize fighting. But at the end of the day, when you're going talent for talent, he's not up there with the best of them anymore.
That's a dangerous fight for anybody fighting Sam Alvey, because you just know if you get beat, like, you're pretty much you ought to, like you said, you ought to be out of there too, you know?
Yeah, you're gone.
Who would want that fight?
So yeah, I'm going with Gergory Rodrigues. He's a guy he stood and traded, and he's a high level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grappler in his own right. And I just think that, you know, he's going to be able to dictate where he wants the fight to be. And he's a guy who, you know, he's went out there and he's fought against strikers, just pure striking. And I don't think Julian Marquez's striking is really there. He can throw heavy shots for sure, but I mean, I think Gergory Rodrigues avoids those and is a little bit more slick with the boxing and the stand-up in general. So I'm going with Gergory Rodrigues. Oh my God, if I could get this burp out. Ugh.
Well, you know, we needed to divert on a few picks. You know, that's what makes the episode interesting. So
hey, it's a 14-fight card. You got to have some underdogs somewhere. You know, gotta have at least a few of them.
Yeah. So next up, we've got Damir Ismagulov versus Guram Kutateladze. I hope I said Guram's last name right. I'll just be referring to him as Guram. But Damir, he's got way more experience in the UFC than Guram. He's a really good Russian mixed martial artist. He's got an arsenal that, you know, it contains everything. He's got a really solid right hand. He uses that often and well. He's got extremely good timing when it comes to his stand-up. He's got really good head movement. He uses body kicks really well. You know, and he's about 30 years old, but he's on a 15-fight win streak. Guram just won a tight split decision against Mateusz Gamrot, and I don't feel confident in Guram at all. I really like Ismagulov's approach to doing damage consistently over time and maintaining his gas tank throughout a fight. I really like Ismagulov here. What do you think about that one, Tom?
Oof. Listen, this is a really close one for me. I mean, when it comes down to who's the better grappler and position control person, that's going to be Damir Ismagulov. He's also probably a little bit more of the volume fighter, but Guram is a little bit more of and because he trains with them, the Hamzat style fighter, where he has a good, solid grappling game base of his own. When he gets taken down, he's going to throw up really crazy submissions. He goes for leg locks and things of that nature. Against Mateusz Gamrot, he almost got a knee bar. So he is very aggressive and offensive off of his back if Damir does take him down. So it's not like I'm going to totally, discount that. But he's also the more powerful and the more creative striker too. So it's a really, really interesting fight. I think I have to probably lean Damir, but my heart's going to go with Guram. He's training with Hamzat Chimaev. He hasn't been in the cage for quite some time. He's had knee issues. He's had visa issues. I think if I'm going to trust anybody to be able to have a phenomenal camp despite injuries or no matter what's going on, it's going to be someone who trains with the savage Hamzat Chimaev. He's a Georgian, and I just have a thing against betting against Georgians. That's why I can't tell that Kyle Dawkins pick. And I also feel like his brother's going to come back and have a good fight. And then, those chakras are going to turn. And then, Kyle's going to go back to being the lesser brother. They can't have two good siblings at the same time in the UFC. Right. It's just my philosophy. I'm a poet, didn't even know it. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Guram Kutateladze.
All right.
And Guram's a plus one underdog, right? And I think Damir's like minus 170, the favorite last I saw.
That's okay. About right.
Yeah. So Guram, the only reason he's probably, this is closer is because he looked very good against Mateusz Gamrot. He deserved to win that, but
undefeated
what's up?
Undefeated Mateusz Gamrot at the time.
Yeah. I mean, he looked good. I mean, he just got taken down quite a bit, but he was the more active guy. And Mateusz had trouble keeping him down. I don't think Damir Ismagulov's going to have trouble keeping Guram down. But where this is dangerous and why I can see Tom why you're a little wishy-washy in the fight is because I am too. We have a 2-year layoff of a guy who was 28 when we saw him in 2020. He's 30 years old now. He's training at a good gym with a lot of savages over there. That Gustafsson, training academy with Khamzat Chimaev and things like that. Very, very good strikers. He went back to the drawing board for the past 2 years. Was working on the takedown defense for sure. I don't think it'll be enough. He does accept some pretty simple take entries opponents. And I think Damir is going to be a lot more better at, getting those takedowns, securing them. But he doesn't have to. I mean, Damir is very serviceable on the feet as well. Good variety of striking. I think maybe the better boxing. But Guram's got the better, well-rounded striking game with the kicks, So, but those kicks might be the kryptonite to allow the takedown. So it's always a give and take, a double-edged sword. I'm going to agree. I think Damir Ismagulov should be the favorite here. I'm going to pick him to win the fight. But betting-wise, parlaying Damir Ismagulov might be dangerous just because we've got 2 years of a guy in his prime at 155 in Guram Kutateladze who might have made some improvements, might have learned from his mistakes. It's going to be very hard to bet against either guy here. I'm going to take Damir Ismagulov, though. I think he's got the better opponents. You're looking at Joel Alvarez, you're looking at Thiago Moises. These fights have aged pretty well, and, nobody was able to outstrike him or grapple him at that point. He does have a lot of wins over BJJ practitioners, though, who aren't really threatening him on the feet. That's where the Guram pick is a little dangerous, too, So there's some give and take on both sides. I'm pretty split down the middle in this fight, but I think what we've seen from Damir, the more active I'll take him to win.
Solid.
Fights.
Yeah. Did we all pick Damir, or who did you go with there, Tom?
I'm going to deviate. I'm going to go with Guram.
Oh, okay. I was hoping we had a super lock there.
No, right. But I'm going to agree with Patrick, though, that this isn't something that I would put in a parlay. This isn't something that – you can bet straight up, but I would this is Sunday. I'm going to wait a little bit to get closer to the fight, see what maybe develops about these two guys, what we hear, how they look, weight cuts, all that good stuff before betting on it potentially. So, I wouldn't add this to any.
Also, the part that I love about doing this with you guys on a Sunday night is these lines might change. They might see the OV last name, add that Russian tax to it, and who knows, maybe this goes to minus 200 and we get more plus money on Guram. I'd be more apt to take that shot at that point.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, Sunday, we do this early into the week, and things do change pretty often when it comes to the betting lines. So we'll keep this rolling up to Joaquin Buckley versus Albert Duraev. And this might be the day of the underdogs for me because – and I know you guys are probably going to disagree with me here, but it's hard for me to pick against Joaquin Buckley. I think he's just so exciting. He's really good on his feet. This won't be a parlay pick either because, this could easily go Duraev's way. But, I think he's plus 200 for Joaquin Buckley. Plus 170. All right. Still, that's a great line right there. He's so creative. I absolutely love that about him. You can't forget the spinning back kick against, I believe it was Impa.
Impa Kasangana, amazing.
Yeah, that was like an all-time highlight. If you ever want to get people into MMA, that's definitely a clip you should show him. He can be a little bit chinny at times. He's been knocked out. He got knocked out by Kevin Holland 2 years ago, I think. He does seem to be steadily improving, though. His confidence is absolutely through the roof right now. He challenged Darren Till to a fight backstage at UFC 273, I think, after Khamzat fought Gil Burns. And so just, because
that's when Darren Till had no idea who he was.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'll fight you. Oh, yeah, I have no idea who that was.
Yeah, neither did Khamzat. They might have been playing that up a little bit because I feel like everybody that's into this sport has seen that spinning back kick. But
Joaquin probably didn't know who Darren Till was. I love Darren Till, but he's got his face is tripled in size lately. You're like, oh, what are you? Are you Darren Till's fat cousin or something? Who are you?
Yeah. And he hasn't been in the limelight as often really recently as he used to be.
Not at all.
There was a time where Darren Till was that dude. He's definitely started to fizzle out.
After he got knocked out in his his home country, went down the tubes after that.
Yeah, by George. That was tough. But and now it's he's almost just riding Khamzat's coattails a little bit, latching onto this guy. Yeah, we're best friends now. But
I'd latch onto those coattails too. It's not a bad career move.
No, not at all. I like the friendship. It is nice. But I think I'm gonna go with Joaquin Buckley here, and it's mainly because of the creativity for me. I think he's got a lot of power in his hands. He's so good on his feet. He has a lengthy UFC resume too. He's got a lot of experience in the UFC octagon. Duraev, his second fight in the UFC. So, there still remains to be a little bit seen. What did he fight in the Russian regional scene beforehand? So
M1 challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody on his resume really stood out to me. And finally, I absolutely hate Duraev's Tapology picture. If you click on like his profile, it's him standing in front of a Mercedes, and
looks like he's gonna sell you crypto or something, you know?
yeah, he looks like your typical like Miami, you know.
He looks like he's got like, oh, I got a multi-platform, you know, thingamajig for you.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to drive a Mercedes. Yeah, he looks very strange. Everybody should go check that out. You know what Keith is talking about. It's so funny.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, look at that if you haven't seen it on Tapology. It's a pretty funny picture. But yeah, so I'm going with Joaquin Buckley here for all those reasons. What do you think about that one, Tom?
Yeah, this one's a really tough fight because it really – I think Albert Duraev, I think some of his opponents had really questionable records, padded with that boxing style of 0-1, 1-1, 3-1 guys for you to run through and have a better record than maybe your your abilities can handle, right? But I think Joaquin Buckley is not a terrible grappler in his own right. I think he is very good at defending takedowns. I think he has a really creative fighting style. I think he throws shots from a lot of different angles, and he has a lot of power in his shots. And a lot of times, Albert Duraev will end up striking with you when maybe he should try and take you down and control you on the ground. There's a lot of times where we see, for whatever reason, grapplers that have a little bit of success striking, they just go to striking and they forget what their base is in grappling. And I think Albert Duraev can do that a little bit. I don't think his striking is on par where it needs to be in order to kind of get lost in striking. The last fight against Roman Kopylov, it was a very good fight. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not totally sold on Roman and his opponent. So to see Albert Duraev go that distance with him, I think it was finished in like the end of the third round or something like that. Or no, it went to a decision. It was very close to being ended, I think, at the end of the second. But either way, I'm gonna lean Joaquin Buckley. I think Albert Duraev is gonna not rely on the grappling as much as he should. I think he potentially could have an issue with getting Buckley to the ground, and I think that's all gonna be, Buckley, if he lands, it's not going to be like Roman Kopylov landing. It's going to be Joaquin Buckley landing, the guy who, is basically a real life ninja. So, Patrick, what are your thoughts?
Is this a super lock? I'm right there with you guys. Underdog shot on Joaquin Buckley for sure. Plus 175 underdog. I'm not impressed with Albert Duraev at all. I watched a lot of his stuff in M1 Challenge. He's got a good set of skills, but he was never really tested with a lot of, good creative strikers the way Joaquin Buckley is, guys who also have the strength that Joaquin Buckley has. Guys like Joaquin Buckley doesn't have terrible cardio either, and he has that power early. He's got that power late, so a lot of first round, second round. He also has the one over Antonio Arroyo, I believe, where it was round 3. Yeah. He finally got the chance to go the KO blow and finally was able to do it in round 3. Not a lot of guys can do that that are explosive like Joaquin Buckley. I like his cardio, but more so Albert Duraev just does not deserve to be this big of a favorite. 2-1. If you watch his fight against Roman Kopylov, his only UFC fight from UFC 267, atrocious. I mean, he starts off okay, but Roman Kopylov is not a good fighter. He's not been great. He's got a chance to turn things around and win us over, but so far he's been pretty bad. And he was about to beat Albert Duraev. Like, he made it very close. Eventually, in the so fatigued was Albert Duraev that he was getting taken down himself. He was getting outstruck in the feet. Even when he was like in round 1, Albert Duraev's striking defense is so atrocious at times. He'll get countered by Joaquin Buckley all day. I really think this is a great underdog price on Joaquin Buckley. I wouldn't be surprised if more money comes in on Joaquin Buckley, but maybe people are thinking that Russian E last name, and that's inflating this price tag. I just don't see it. You've got the UFC experience for Joaquin Buckley. 10 of his 18 fights have ended in KO. He's got finishing potential. We just finally saw him actually have to go into deep waters against Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, actually have to wrestle and strike for 3 rounds in a grueling fight. He was able to work through fatigue. It didn't look pretty, but he was able to do that, and I thought he deserved to win that decision unanimously. One judge disagreed. It is what it is, but it looked a lot better than Albert Duraev's, decision win. I mean, that easily could have slipped right through his fingers in his debut. So Joaquin Buckley never been submitted before. Not that he can't be, but he just seems so physically strong that I think by the time Duraev has to muscle him around the cage for 1 or 2 rounds, if he survives, he's going to be dead in round 3 the way he was against Roman Kopylov in October. So I'm very, very confident in Joaquin Buckley here. He's got the skills to get this done. 28 years old, the better measurables as far as reach goes. The only time that Joaquin Buckley's actually been really challenged lately by a grapple-heavy opponent was Logan Storley in Bellator, who's the current champion. So besides that, he's fought a lot of strikers that have, been able to give him those exciting highlight reel fights. This will be something new for him, but I think the Abdul Razak Khalassan was a bit of a test of his cardio grappling-wise at least. So I've got pretty good confidence in this underdog.
Nice. All right, super lock. We'd love to see it. Finally.
Finally, about time.
Yeah. Well, I think on this next fight, I'm going to divert from you two guys. Possibly. We'll see how it goes. But we've got Tim Means, the Dirty Bird, versus Kevin Holland, going by multiple nicknames, Trailblazer, Big Mouth, all that good stuff.
I like Big Mouth.
Yeah, I mean, it suits him very well. But Tim Means is coming in at plus 195, Kevin Holland at minus 240. And this is actually one I'm pretty conflicted on. I think that this is going to be a great fight. I like Kevin Holland here, but you can't sleep on Tim Means. He's gotten cracked a few times, and he just goes on autopilot, like he said, when he got cracked by Nick Dalby, I think. And he's got great instincts. I think that this is going to be, if Kevin Holland has it his way, it's going to be a stand-up bout. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tim Means tries to take Kevin Holland down, since we all know that Kevin Holland has a history of just suffering on his back. When Means does take opponents down, like he did this to Dalby, he gets into side control very, very quickly, especially when his opponents are a little bit inept on the ground. He gets into side control, stays there, lands a good bit of elbows, knees, the Means fights at range, and he does leave himself open to a lot of body and leg kicks, which I think Kevin Holland is definitely going to exploit. Also because of the range that Means fights at, he throws strikes from pretty far away, and it's going to be easy for Kevin Holland to see a lot of those coming in. Kevin Holland's got really good head movement, and I think Kevin Holland is more likely to dodge shots and try to move out of the way of things, whereas Means is more likely and more willing to take one to give one. So I do see a path to victory here for Tim Means. But I'm torn. I think just because of the line and the week that the night that I had last night, since I can be a little bit more reckless this week, I think I'm actually going to go with Tim Means here at plus 195. I think he's a high value underdog pick in this one. Kevin Holland, if you're going up against him, that there's a clear path to victory. If you have, the slightest wrestling ability whatsoever, you can beat Kevin Holland. So, what do you think about that one, Tom?
Yeah, I'm going to have to be riding with Kevin Holland here. Maybe a little bit of personal affinity for the fighter is getting in the way. But at the end of the day, I think Kevin Holland has been focusing on it. I know his grappling still is leaves a lot to be desired. He's been getting slightly better. In recent fights, he's been able to ward off those takedowns to a little bit later in the first round than in previous fights. But at the end of the day, I think Kevin Holland, if he's able to keep it, standing, he is going to have, I think, a 4 or 5 inch reach advantage in this fight. So he is by far the longer fighter. He is going to be able to pick Tim Means apart at range. I think he's the much quicker fighter. I think he's the much more creative fighter. And even if Tim Means does take it down, I think Kevin Holland, he knows that grappling is his weakness, but I think he has affinity for fighting. And it's interesting that wrestling is his weakness, but jiu-jitsu is one of his strengths. He's very, very good at jiu-jitsu, especially submission and offensive jiu-jitsu off of his back. He likes to cut people up. Don't forget, Kevin Holland is the guy who knocked out Jacare Souza off his back. So at the end of the day, that's not someone who I'm ever going to count out. When you're knocking out somebody, and when you are a jiu-jitsu player, you can play jiu-jitsu later in your career than maybe you would be able to box or do kickboxing or MMA. So even a little bit later in his career, for Kevin Holland to knock out Jacare Souza off his back it shouldn't get discounted because it's later in Jacare Souza's career. And I think Jacare Souza went on to retire either the fight after that or 2 fights after that. But either way, I like Kevin Holland in this fight. I think he's the far more entertaining fighter. And I think at the UFC, when they're making matchups, I think some people, they want to give them matchups so that they lose. I don't think that's happening here. I think they want to give Kevin Holland a good matchup so he's an exciting fighter, continues to build his presence and popularity outside or inside the UFC with fans. And I also think they want to raise him to a different level. So they're not going to necessarily throw someone at him where he's going to be exploited and all of that. Patrick, to you, sir.
Looking at already inflated, what are we at, like minus 300 for Holland, something like that, minus 280. I'm not quite sure where it's at.
I'll tell you right now, it is minus 240 for Kevin Holland.
Okay, so like plus 170 mean.
Plus
yeah, so okay, so means is he's very, very good. He's been durable thus far against some of the record, the competition he's fought. Very durable. He's only been knocked out one time, and that was by who the hell was that by? Nico Price, right? So Kevin Holland, he's kind of a guy that I don't have the personal affinity to him that Tom mentioned. I am going to pick Kevin Holland to win this fight, but I mean, Kevin, guy who was everybody's favorite guy in 2020. He won 5 times in 2020. Fought, pretty much every other month and got all the victories. Then he comes in 2021, can't win anything. He gets, destroyed by Brunson. Tory ends up clashing heads against Douglas, and now he has to rid himself at one. He looks very good against Alex Oliveira. Alex Oliveira is another guy who'd only been knocked out once before that, and now he got knocked out by Kevin Holland. So Kevin Holland is a different kind of power at 185, and especially at 170s. Probably if you can get 81-inch reach and still only 29 years old. So I like Kevin Holland here. I think the price tag is it's warranted if it wasn't for those fights where he let us down against Brunson and Vettori, and he was such a huge favorite in those fights that it's kind of anytime I see like a minus 200 or more Kevin Holland, I get very leery. I'm like, are you going to betray me again? Are you going to do something stupid? But I think otherwise, if you just ignore that poor fight IQ and just that huge hole in his game, this should be fine. I don't think Tim Means is the type of guy that's going to be able to keep him down and hold him down. Tim Means has also been submitted like 5 too by people that are not quite even on the level of a BJJ practitioner of Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland can threaten submissions, either get them or at least get the back to his feet that way. So Tim Means is a very good aggressive pressure. That's part of his game plan. That's baked into his style, and that's why he wins some fights. A lot of decision victories based on that forward aggression. But he's very sloppy with his defense striking, and I think Kevin Holland can use that long 81-inch reach to just pick him apart all day long, potentially even end the fight. I know Tim Means is very durable, but, like I said, Cowboy Oliveira was durable too, and he got laid out. So I'm taking Kevin Holland here. I even like the inside the distance if there's a juicy enough number on that. Get this closer to even money.
Yeah. I knew that was going to be one of the ones that we were going to divert on for sure. Tim Means is definitely a ballsy pick in this fight, but like you said, Kevin Holland has let us down, especially when I see like anything over like minus, over minus 200 for him. It almost feels like a trap in a way because he is a favorite. He is known by a lot of people, like a lot of casuals. So it does kind of feel like bait to me, but I definitely understand why you guys are taking him. And
you're looking at, you said your limit for that would be like minus 200. So we're looking at an implied probability of 66.6% odds that he doesn't do something stupid. That's actually quite a heavy price tag to wager against Kevin Holland, who might do something stupid, might just start talking to the commentary team off of his back when Tim Means is laying on him. You never really know, but so far he looks good at 170, and I have a little bit of trust in him.
He looks strong at 170, and with that frame and with some strength behind it, and with all of the work that he's been doing in Hendrickson, I really think that he's going to be a whole different force to be reckoned with at 170. So and I think. I'm glad you brought up the Alex Oliveira fight. He looked very good in that fight. Now, that was an aging Oliveira, so hard to read into at this point in time what that means. But I think Cowboy Oliveira got cut too.
Yeah, right.
So, still not sold on Kevin Holland, but he did look very good at 170, and I'm very.
At least he's 29 years old still, and Tim Means is up at 38 years old. Doesn't look like a big decline from Tim Means, but he's never really facing like that upper level competition either. He's facing like the Staropolis or the Dalbys, guys that can he can get away with being the older guy and use his veteran savvy. Now he's gonna have to go against the guy who's got just so many physical advantages and the ability to improve fight to fight as well. And a guy coming with a drastic weight cut. Who's this size that Tim Means has fought with an 81-inch reach that's fit for a heavyweight, not a welterweight. So. A lot of interesting stats in this fight.
Yeah, not to mention like Kevin Holland. I mean, I totally understand why you have a little bit of an affinity for him, Tom, because he is like an actual real life superhero, like pulling people out of burning
Twice.
car robberies. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's crazy. Like he's in like
Tim Means is a real life superhero too, though. He was he was addicted to meth and like shot a guy or something, I believe, in his house. So
whoa,
yeah.
I didn't know
about a long time ago. Yeah. Look into it. He did something. He got in some sort of fight or shot himself. He got like addicted to painkillers and meth early on in his life, and like some guy like I think broke into his house or tried to mug him. So like he almost killed the guy and went to prison for a while. Once he got out, he turned his life around. So he's like a real life superhero, kind of like
wow, that's crazy. I didn't know about that too.
It's more of like a superhero versus villain origin story, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely got me, pulling for both of these guys in their career. I mean, that's crazy. I didn't know that about Tim Means. That's really interesting. So we'll kick it on up to the two old guys. I mean, I'm almost upset that this fight is happening personally.
Why?
Well, I mean, I'll put it to you like this: if Cowboy loses, that puts him on what, a 6-fight losing streak to just end his career, because this is probably going to be the last one for him. And he is a legend. He's been around the game for so long. Yep. He's been in some great scraps. But to go out on 6 losses in a row is just so tough. And it would be even tougher if it came to Joe Louzan, because he hasn't been active for like over 2 years either. Right. And I think they only called Lauzon because he had 1 fight left on his contract. So he said Hunter Campbell called him up and was just like, yeah, do you want to get in there one last time and just finish out your contract? And then you have Cowboy, who, openly said he was unwilling to go in there against Conor McGregor when he fought him. Like he didn't want to be in that octagon. And then, he happened to get food poisoning, when he was supposed to fight on, what was that, 274.
Oh, is that what that was? I remember there was some sort of illness the day of, but I didn't. It was food poisoning or something weird with his.
Yeah, he said he literally ate a bad taco.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just a little suspect to me.
Yeah, it sounds like his weight cut went bad.
Yeah, possibly. Or yeah, it could be. Or we're seeing this version of Cowboy now at this point that, he might not even want to go in there because there is that, inevitability, like this is it. And how do I want to go out if he doesn't feel 100%? Maybe it was legit food poisoning, but like, it's just, he's been talking so much about how he didn't want to be in there in his last couple of fights. He really can't see himself. He can't seem to find himself in the octagon. He's getting beat pretty badly by a lot of guys ever since Tony Ferguson, beat him by Dr. Stoppage back in 2019. He just really hasn't been able to find his footing. And some of his losses have been really early and really brutal, like that knockout by Conor McGregor, just eating shoulders up against the cage. Just it's been a tough, long road for Cowboy in these last couple of years. So, yeah, I mean, I almost don't even want to watch this because he is a legend, but he's also going to be retiring afterwards. And I don't think it's going to be a very pretty fight. I'm really hoping they just gave Joe Louzan to Cowboy, to possibly get him out there on a win, give him his ticker tape parade and, give him his roses and say goodbye. So I'm going to go with Cowboy, but I'm not particularly happy about it. It's a tough one. What do you think about this one, Patrick?
Yeah, I agree with you. I do like seeing this matchup, though, for Donald Cerrone. At least they're not feeding him to the wolves like they do, a lot of the older guys that are going to retire, right? They usually feed them to some young up-and-coming guy. They've done that enough for Donald Cerrone. They're finally like, okay, we're going to give you somebody else that's kind of your equal counterpart, right? And somebody that you probably have a size advantage over and an activity advantage over. He's probably more in shape than Joe Louzan. He's been for fight camps and actually fighting since Joe Louzan beat, who was that, Jonathan St. Pierce back in Boston. So, I think this is a winnable fight for either guy, but probably Cerrone more so, even though he is the 1 year older. He's 39 years old, but he's got the measurables, right? 2-inch reach advantage, like a 3-inch height advantage. And the guy who's more comfortable fighting up at 170 and now cutting down to 155. I think he's the more striker at this point. Better form, better pop on his punches. Joe Louzan's going to start early, like he does most of his career, and especially late in his career. He's going to start early. But if Donald Cerrone's coming, which everybody does, you can just prepare for blitz from Joe Louzan, survive that first round. if you can get the finish early, but I think it'll be a fight that goes over more than not. It's hard to be confident in that, but like you mentioned, you wanted to go out knowing that this is probably both of your guys' last appearance in the octagon in front of fans. They probably, whoever, even if they win or lose, they probably don't want to go out too badly, too embarrassingly. I think they might take this one a little bit slower and, just have a slow grinding fight that Donald Cerrone ends up getting the better striking output on. Joe Louzan just doesn't have too many good things going for him. Even before he had that win over JSP, he got KO'd by Clay Guida, which doesn't really happen that to too many people, right? Like, you got to be in pretty rough shape for Clay Guida to knock you out,
4 years
right?
ago, Clay Guida too.
Yeah, right. So it's like not even, that's what I said, like even before his last victory for Joe Louzan, he's had a lot of red flags. He had a corner stoppage against Grutzmacher. Remember that? Like a corner stoppage. They're like, okay, you're eating too many shots here. You probably won't close out your contract with another fight if you just keep on getting your brain turned into stew by Chris Grutzmacher. So this is just a guy who's never really like had too much momentum, Joe Louzan. Nicest guy. He's kind of like Wonder Boy Thompson as far as outside of the cage. Great personality, but I feel like that's kind of clouded my vision. I've got a better vision of him in the past, like having a better career. But I really look at it and look at the pieces and really was never that impressive to begin with. Is this a better line? Are we getting a better line or a worse line on Cerrone this time than last time? Do you know? Or was it about the same, minus 165? Usually when they reopen, it's a little bit steeper, but I think this seems familiar. Like this is the same price.
It might be a little bit better than the last time too. I think last time was minus 185 for Cowboy, but don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% positive.
I like going by the stats for the finish props, like the unders and the fight doesn't go to, but the majority of these guys' fights, 36 of 54 for Cerrone, 35 of 43 for Lauzon, have ended inside the distance before the judges' scorecards. But I just have a personal feeling this will go a little bit slower, a little bit more of a senior citizen's conclusion to their career here. And, this might not be the end for Donald Cerrone. I think 39 years old is a great age to start bare knuckle boxing. Let's go for it, Donald. Let's go.
Yeah, definitely.
I can see him in there against Hector Lombard, getting the belt.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Keith. You'll see a lot more action from Donald Cerrone at BKFC for better paychecks.
Or he'll fight Diego Sanchez over at Eagle FC.
Oh, yeah. That's a good – yeah.
Listen, I don't know if I even want to see Donald Cerrone fight anymore, and it's not necessarily because I don't want to see Donald Cerrone fight. It's because I don't want to see Donald Cerrone get hit. And potentially suffer more injuries. I mean, this is a guy who had disemboweled himself outside of the cage. He has 1,000,001 injuries. He almost drowned himself. I mean, this is a guy who loves he's got the bad motherfucker ranch. He loves adrenaline junkie type activities, and which is why I guess it lends himself to fighting. But I just don't want to see him potentially hurt himself more. But I don't think we're going to see that. I think this is definitely the last fight for Donald Cerrone, win or lose, because he was talking before the fight that got canceled about how he was getting emotional, but talking about how he can't wait to see his son Danger, and he wants his son to see him fight, and he wants to make his son proud, and he was getting emotional talking about it. And I think that was such a real moment that it was different for Cowboy Cerrone, because now he's fighting literally for something more than just the fun of fighting. And I think that him and that feeling of like coming out so his son can see him is going to energize him. And I think he's going to go out and he's going to want to do it kind of like how, Michael Chandler, and immediately after he won, he's like, where's my son? Where's my son? Like, I'm getting that kind of same vibes from here. And that's why I think that it was genuine, unlucky food poisoning, and maybe it was a blessing in disguise, divine intervention. Maybe there was some issue with Donald where he woke up that day, didn't feel good, and then he got the food poisoning, and now he's going to come back and he's going to get the win, and he's going to ride off into the sunset with Danger, and who knows. But
his son's name is Danger? Danger Cerrone?
What was that?
You said his son's name is Danger Cerrone?
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. That kid's got to be a fighter. He's got to get into mixed martial arts right away.
It's so fitting for the kid who's going to grow up on the bad motherfucker ranch in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I mean, it is what it is. But I think Donald Cerrone has been a company man for so long with the UFC that they are not going to have him go out in any way that's going to be A, either disrespectful, or B, not indicative of the career he's had. And I don't think I also, talking about vibes, this is giving me a little bit of Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. vibes, where it's like guys at the end of their career. In that case, they were beyond end of their career. The career had ended and they came back. These guys, at the end of their career, I think going to go out there, put on an entertaining fight for the fans, but I don't think we're necessarily going to see a finish here. The lock of the night for me is Donald Cerrone Joe. Well, no, I'm not going to say that. Anything can happen in MMA. People can get knocked out. I'm not saying these guys are going to go in there and play patty cake, but I think they're going to go and put on a fun fight first and foremost. But did we all go with Donald Cerrone here?
Yeah.
No, Joe Louzan.
And you guys like the overs in this fight too? Like the over 1.5, over 2.5. I see a lot of people with the last time they fought, they're going to fight on that Oliveira Oliveira Gaethje card, right? And I saw a lot of people calling like that was like a parlay piece, like going under 2.5 or fight doesn't go. I just didn't agree with that. The numbers support it, but I just didn't agree with it from a narrative standpoint, just a gut feeling standpoint.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I see. I don't see Joe Louzan coming back after 2 years off, and before that 4 years off, like with power to knock out Donald Cerrone. I know Donald Cerrone like can go out, but he's not a totally inept fighter. And Donald Cerrone, same thing. I think he's got good volume and he's got his wits about him, but I don't think he's going to come in there and knock out a guy who, doesn't have a ton of accumulated damage recently. So that's a tough one for me.
Okay.
No, it's true. All right. So we'll move on to the main event now. I'm really excited for this one. Anytime Calvin Kattar comes into the octagon, I'm super excited. He's minus 240 going into this one against Josh Emmett, who is plus 195. And I'm going with Calvin all the way this week. He's improved so much since that matchup with Max Holloway. Like, he only did have that one fight in between with Giga Chikadze, but he absolutely gave him the business 4 months ago and hardly took any damage himself. He's a legit threat in the division because he's got wildly fast hands, great boxing combinations, and he's got like wildly sharp elbows too that he used so well against Giga Chikadze. Like, he just ripped his whole face to shreds. It was incredible. And Giga was talking so much crap going into that one. It was it was pretty funny to see him get his retribution for that. Talking about how he's going to surpass the whole division and go fight Volk for a championship. Yeah, right, bro. But I think there's a couple other things going against Josh Emmett here. He hasn't had a full 5-round fight yet. And Kattar's last two have gone a full 25 minutes. Emmett is humble, and he's spoken about it with our friend James Lynch that this is his biggest jump in competition. Usually he fights back, but he knows that this is the biggest jump in competition, and I personally don't think he's ready for it. I think Kattar's just going to pound his face in like it's a chicken cutlet, and Emmett should probably be paid extra money for how much blood he's going to donate to the octagon canvas on Saturday. I think it'll be a clear decision victory for Kattar. I think he's going to win all 5 rounds possibly, or maybe put up a 49 on somebody's scorecard. Get that 49-46 we've been seeing a lot recently. But I think it's going to be a very clear win for Calvin Kattar on Saturday. What do you think about that one, Tom?
Yeah, I just can't agree. Not saying that I think Calvin Kattar may win. I just think this one's going to be close. I'm not willing to admit that Calvin Kattar is just going to go out there and knock the brakes off of Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett is extremely quick. He's got a base rooted in grappling. He doesn't use it much anymore, but he's quick and he's got really good power in his hands. He's fought good competition up until this point. He's performed well against them. Calvin Kattar, yeah, he did well against Giga Chikadze, but that was largely after he had tired Giga Chikadze out by getting him on the ground, putting a body triangle on him, making Giga hold his body and change the pattern of a fight that he's used to. I think Calvin Kattar isn't going to be able to have the same type of grappling effectiveness against Josh Emmett as he did against Giga Chikadze. I don't think he's going to be able to wear him out. I think I think Josh Emmett is going to be able to land on Calvin Kattar. Giga Chikadze was landing on Calvin Kattar in the first round and even into the second round and even late into the fourth round and the fifth round. Like, even after Giga was all messed up, he was still landing on Calvin Kattar. So he is able to get hit. And I think those punches that are coming in from Josh Emmett, they're going to be quicker. He's not going to have the ground game to be able to tire out Emmett. I think this one's going to be close. Now, Calvin Kattar absolutely does have slicker boxing. He's going to be able to pop the 1-2, get out of range, move around. I think Josh Emmett, let me look this up. I think Josh Emmett might have a reach advantage. But either way,
Josh Emmett's at 70-inch reach and Calvin Kattar's at 72.
Okay, so there you go. But Josh Emmett is being the wrestler and having the grappling background. He's going to be able to pop in and pop out. So he's got really good movement. Calvin Kattar is going to have more of the side-to-side movement and be able to get away and turn off. It's going to be a really, really good fight. I think this one's going to stand on the feet. I maybe want to I want to kind of go to Calvin Kattar just a little bit because of his experience with 5-round fights. I don't know where I fall on this one. To be a country, I think I'll go Calvin Kattar. I think I'm going to go Calvin Kattar by decision. But I definitely think Josh Emmett takes 2 rounds. I think it's going to be a close one.
All right. Fair. What do you got, Patrick?
Yeah, it could potentially be closer than the line indicates, especially as the line keeps on growing. Calvin Kattar definitely is going to have that well-deserved reputation for being super, super tough as he, absorbed more strikes than anybody ever has without getting knocked out. I think he his striking metrics per minute are ruined for the rest of his career because of Max Holloway. He's always going to have a negative, striking differential the entire time. But, 34 years old, so not the oldest featherweight in the ring on Saturday with Josh Emmett, 37. He's going to be the much larger man, 5 inches of height, 5'11", versus 5'6", 2 inches of reach. So once again, this is like the tale of a couple matches we've seen already where it's a step down in competition for Calvin Kattar, a step up for Josh Emmett. The younger guy taking a step down finally, and the older man taking a step up. It's a little bit different. What was cool with the tape study for this one was to compare and contrast the 2 guys. They actually have 3 opponents in common in the UFC. They have Ricardo Lamas, they have Gergory Stevens, they got Dan Ige. So you can kind of watch those fights side by side and kind of see how they dealt with each opponent. I was just much more impressed with Calvin Kattar. I think he's got heavier hands, for 145. And 145 is really a division that, for some reason, just statistically doesn't end as much as like 135 or even 170 as of lately. So I like the overs more than I like a side in the fight. I'm definitely going to take the money beginning, just out of whack, as it's, I think, minus 240 already, and that's probably going to grow towards minus 300 as the progresses. That's a bit much. I just don't see a lot of extra value in it. But I don't see a lot of extra value getting towards 60 to 75% ability implied that Calvin Kattar wins. I might agree with that, but what else are we gaining by betting that? We're matching the fair price in the bookies. So I like the overs in this to see when they drop what the over 2.5, over 4 and it goes, because 14 out of 28 fights for Calvin Kattar have seen the judges' scorecards. 19 for Josh Emmett have as well. So we're looking at over 50% of their fights go the distance in a division at featherweight where a lot of the fights lately have been going all 15 or all 25 minutes as well. So I'm going to like anything under like minus 200. I'd probably take the overs in this fight. Maybe as an insurance policy if I end up parlaying Calvin Kattar with somebody else in the card.
Nice. Yeah, another super lock, and I do really like that over the over rounds pick, especially like 2.5 is sweet. That's awesome.
If it is, I don't know if it's set there, but if you could find it, this might be set. I mean, I just think that these the bookmakers might open it lower, maybe over 3.5, over under 2.5, because these guys have that reputation of being such strong power hitters for 145. Even though the numbers, if you look at it, they don't do that at like a significant rate. It's not like they're finishing 80% of the time. It's like about 50-50, So we'll see if they're privy to that or not. But by the numbers, this should maybe see some later rounds.
I'm trying to see if I could find – oh, no, they don't have it up yet on FanDuel.
No.
I'm not sure about any of the other books. But, yeah, that'll definitely come in as the week goes along.
Yeah, that's something probably to jump on early as the time, perhaps, if you agree with that. Or maybe you see something in the game plan of Calvin Kattar and a weakness in Josh Emmett where you can see Josh Emmett getting finished. But, I just don't really see that happening. I think this will be at least in the later rounds. Josh Emmett maybe will have to break as this goes on towards the rounds he's not used to, like rounds 4 and 5.
Right. Yeah, totally agree. All right, so great episode. We got a couple super locks in here, so we're going to wrap this one up as we always do with our quick rundown. So I'm going to kick it off. I'm taking Cody Stamann over Eddie Vineland as my prelim lock. Then I'm taking Julian Marquez over Gregory Rodrigues. Damir Ismagulov over Guram, last name I'll never be able to say. I'm taking Joaquin Buckley over Albert Duraev. I'm taking Tim Means over Kevin Holland. Donald Cerrone, Cowboy over Joe Louzan. And I'm taking Calvin Kattar over Josh Emmett. Got a couple good underdogs on here. Tom, what do you got?
I am going with, starting from the bottom and going to the top, Cody Stamann over Eddie Wineland. Also, I saw the opportunity for the Drake line. I don't know why I didn't take it. It was right there in front of me. I'm going to tell you, Patrick, with the Ricardo Ramos pick. I like Jasmine Justas Vicious, the UFC fighter. Going with her to win by decision over Natalia Silva. I like, moving on to the main card, I like Gergory Rodrigues over Julian Marquez by decision. I think I'm going to go with Guram Kutateladze ever so slightly, but I would stay away from that one as far as betting goes. Going to go with Joaquin Buckley over Albert Duraev. Hop on that now because I think you can get Joaquin Buckley as a dog, and I don't think he should be a dog. You can get Kevin Holland, Kevin Big Mouth, Trailblazer Holland, love him. Donald Cowboy Cerrone in his final fight, most likely in the drop of the curtain, and I'm going to go with Calvin Kattar over Josh Emmett. Patrick, over to you, good sir.
Yeah, I think we agreed on the prelims. I got Cody Stamann, Jasmine Jusita, have Ricardo Ramos most confident in. Then I got Gergory Rodrigues, Damir Ismagulov, slightly. I've got the dog shot we agreed on, Joaquin Buckley. Kevin Holland over Tim Means, Donald Cerrone, a pretty low confident pick since those guys are just really towards the end of their career. Donald Cerrone officially, Calvin Kattar in the main event.
All right, awesome. Well, Patrick, I want to say thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate you taking the time out and being here. And everybody that stuck around this long watching at home, like I said in the beginning, please make sure that you like, you comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out. Tom, thank you for joining me as always, too. Really appreciate you taking your time and helping us grow this little thing we got over here. Follow us over on Twitter, Instagram. That's @_pickin winners. And, thank you and have a great night.
Hey, by the way, make sure you follow and like and subscribe. Addicted to Combat, Patrick's channel. Does a lot of really, really good breakdowns, very similar to us. He goes very, very much into depth. Patrick, tell everybody about yourself and your channel.
Yeah, my name is Patrick. I run a YouTube called Addicted to Combat. You can also find me on Twitter @CombatAddict1. I'm just enjoying the community so far. I just started doing this on YouTube and Twitter this year so far, but I've been an MMA fan literally my entire life since I was a toddler. So this is the only sport that I know. I don't know the rules to any other sport besides mixed martial arts. This is what takes up 110% of my time. So it's always fun. This is always what I wanted, was just to talk shop with other smart guys like Tom and Keith, and just meet other YouTubers. So follow me there. Give me a like, a sub, and let's talk fights.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, man.
Yeah.